Welcome to Phillip Island, Victoria in Australia. What a setting we have for this great sporting contest, the Little Penguin Sea to Dune race. Nervous moments always as they gather on the beach, the tension mounting, and away they go. There's the defending champion, wearing his familiar navy blue and white, great waddling style. Another pre-race favourite though, losing touch with the pack. Maybe that's why. A few too many fish in the day's feeding. There's a familiar face, Skip McIntyre, 8 times a champion back in the 90s, a very successful coach now, keeping a keen eye on proceedings. This the leading group, one or two still able to put on a show for the camera, others just ploughing straight over it. Some resorting to shortcuts. Sad that cheating has crept into this beautiful sport. The judges will have a look at that. But up at the front, the pace is relentless, closing in on those sand dunes that will offer a bed for the night. The fatigue starting to tell. Who's got the finishing kick up on the outside? What a turn of pace from that one, whichever one it is. No answer from the rest, and he takes victory. What a win. There we are, into the Burrow, building an extension with his winnings, and back tomorrow to try and defend his title here on Phillip Island.
Welcome to Live Penguin TV. My name's Megan and I'm going to be your host tonight as we watch the world's smallest species of penguin, our little penguin, coming out of the water, crossing the beach and heading back to their burrows here on Phillip Island in Victoria, Australia. And tonight I'm joined by Sue. Come on in, Sue. Tell us what you'll be doing tonight.
Hello everyone. Nice to see everyone again. I will be looking through Facebook and YouTube for this evening and endeavouring to, alongside with Megan, we'll have a go at answering some of your wonderful questions. Thanks. Enjoy.
Thanks, Sue. So send through all your comments and questions to Sue and we will try and ask some of the best ones, the trickiest ones, maybe ones we haven't heard before, live on Penguin TV tonight. Now, I would just like to say Warumjika to Milau, which means welcome to Phillip Island in the language of the Bunurong. And we are broadcasting to you tonight from Milau, the traditional lands of the Bunurong. So they were the first people here on Phillip Island and they've been coming here for thousands of years. So I would just like to take a moment to acknowledge the Bunurong and their elders past, present and emerging, and acknowledge the care for country over those thousands of years. And if you want to, let us know in the comments where you're joining us from, and if you know the traditional custodians of the land that you are on, share that in the comments as well. That would be fantastic. Now, I will just scroll across the beach here. I was looking over at the main viewing stands, but I have heard that there are already some penguins coming in. So let's see if there's any coming in right down nice and close to our camera. Oh, there they are. And we do have a few staff joining us tonight to come and enjoy the penguins before we are reopening our doors to the penguin parade tomorrow, which is very exciting. And our first group of penguins crossing the beach already. So these little guys have been out at sea. This time of year, they've probably been out there for a few weeks or a few days. Oh, and there's some already coming along the Penguin Highway. Gosh, they're too quick for me tonight. Try and turn around and follow these little guys. So they've been out there all day for probably a few days looking for food, diving up and down, looking for small fish, things like anchovies, pilchards, jellyfish. They'll also eat a little bit of squid, pretty much anything small enough that they can fit in their mouths, baby barracuda. And they've been diving probably over 1,000 times each day, traveling up to 50 kilometers each day in search of food. So these guys have been very, very busy out on the ocean. And they've decided that they have a nice full belly of food and they want to come back onto land tonight. So they don't have to do that every day. When they are out at sea, it is where they spend 80% of their time. They can just sleep floating on the surface of the water. So you can see, I might zoom in on some of these little guys here who's stopping to have a little bit of a rest, that they have really excellent camouflage. Now, little penguins, they aren't just the smallest species of penguin, they are also the only species of penguin that has blue feathers. All the other penguin species have black and white feathers. Now, little penguins are blue and white. So they do get called in New Zealand the little blue penguin. And that helps them camouflage themselves when they're out in the ocean. So they have what's called countercoloration. So you'll see on these little guys, all of their belly is white. Even the bottoms of their feet and the top of their feet, the bottom of their beak and top of their feet are light in colour. So that when they're floating on the surface, if you look up at them from below, their little white tummies blend in with the sky. And here's another little group. And, oh, something's given them a fright. What are the bets that it was a goose? If you've been watching the last couple of nights, we have had a goose terrorising our penguins. There we go, there's the culprit. Geese and penguins, they're not enemies. The goose isn't going to eat the penguins, but they don't get along. They both just want to go about their business. The goose wants to find a nice territory to nest and raise its young and eat some grass, and the penguins just want to go back to their burrows. And sometimes they do get in each other's way, particularly this time of year when the geese are breeding, they get a little bit aggressive. So if I was a penguin, I certainly wouldn't be getting too close to a goose. And I have seen a goose peck a penguin, but I did see that same penguin turn around and peck the goose right back. So they can give as good as they get, but if they can avoid it, they're going to try and steer clear of this goose. And what was I saying? I was talking about the penguin's camouflage. So you'll also notice that all of their back is blue. So when they're floating on the surface, they also are camouflaged from above. So their little blue back blends in with the water from above because they are so small, they do have to worry about big birds of prey. And that's why our penguins tonight have been waiting until it got dark to come out of the water and cross the beach. And what is going on down here with this goose? Oh my goodness, I think we might have to give this goose a name. We've seen it the last couple nights. I'm pretty sure it is the same goose hanging out in this area, causing trouble. So if you want to pop in the comments any suggestions on a name for this goose, give us your best goosey names. It is a Cape Barren goose. They are quite a beautiful bird and the second rarest species of goose in the world. And they do mate for life, so I'm not sure where this one's partner is. Maybe it hasn't found a partner yet and it's a little bit grumpy because it's young and frustrated, I don't know. But we might try and give this little goose a name because I can foresee that it's going to be around for a little bit longer, causing mischief with our penguins. Oh my goodness. Poor penguins. They are a little frightened, but they aren't in any real danger. So as much as the goose is terrorizing them a little bit, we don't have to worry too much about the penguins. Penguins are tough and resilient. They're hardy little birds. Even a peck from a goose isn't going to bother them too much. Like I said, they'll turn around and peck the goose back. They're going to be fine. They're going to make their way home. And now they have a nice big group. I think they're going to be a bit more confident to make their way past this goose. Although, guys, you could go around. I don't know why they're walking right up to it. Oh, my goodness. Don't go back to the water. Oh, good. They're just going up to the rocks because one struggle for our penguin counter tonight. Kerry is counting the penguins tonight, and it's very difficult because the tide is very high. So she would have to count these penguins very quickly as they go across the rocks. And if they're running back into the water after she's counted them, that's certainly not ideal. I know the first ever night that I had to count the penguins, I had a big group come up right on this pathway here, and I counted them all, and I was feeling really proud of myself. And then a goose flew down, and a heap of them ran back in the water, a heap of them ran up onto land, and I wasn't quick enough to see how many went each way. So it certainly does make it difficult. But the penguins are worried about any birds flying overhead in particular, because they are worried about those birds of prey, but they have the best adaptations to avoid them. That's why they come out when it's dark, because those birds of prey have gone to roost for the night. It's safer for them to come out. And they come in these groups for safety in numbers when they're coming up onto land. We do call a group of penguins in the water a raft, so you might have heard us talk about the rafts and how they'll be grouping together a couple of hours before sunset, talking to each other. They'll be going, huck, 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 huck. So if you've seen that in the comments and you've watching for the first time and you're wondering what everyone's on about going huck, 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 it is the penguins' location calling out to each other to group together. So it's really lovely to see everyone in the comments calling out to each other and greeting each other.
Big group that's just come up.
So they form those groups, and then they come in for that safety in numbers, and we've managed to get a nice big group coming in now. Try and have a guess in the comments. Let us know how many you think might have been in that group, and we might try and see if Kerry can let us know how many there were, if she's not too inundated.
Yeah.
Do we have a number, Sue?
Yeah. So in the first big group there was 116,
Ooh.
and then that group just then was 23.
23. I think we might have had them grouped together because of that goose. We kind of got a penguin traffic jam. So 116 and 23.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, great job to whoever was closest. I'm sorry, we're having some computer difficulties, so Sue can't see your comments right now. But keep sending them through. We will have a look at them, I promise, once the computer has stopped having easy feed. So it's a nice, good couple of groups for our first couple of groups of penguins, and still trying to make their way past the goose, but some of them have made it along the highway camera. We'll try and catch these guys as they walk past. They are surprisingly quick when they do get up along our penguin highway here. There they go. And that's a view you'd get if you were to come and watch the penguins going out in the morning, which it's not something that we do here. It's a little bit too early. They do go out a couple of hours before sunset. And there is a penguin on the screen at the moment with a little bit of a limp. And I think we saw the same penguin last night, so don't worry. If you can see this penguin in the screen here, who's having a bit of trouble walking. He's leaning quite close to the ground, having a bit of a rest. But he's keeping up with the rest of the penguins, and he looks fat and healthy. And these are wild animals, our little penguins. This is a natural wildlife event. These aren't captive animals. We don't feed them. They don't come in here because we train them to. This is what they would be doing whether we were here or not. So we do try to interfere as little as possible. If we do have a sick or injured penguin, we might intervene. Oh, sorry, I'm going to go back to the main camera. If we think that penguin needs our help, particularly if it's a human-caused issue. Oh my goodness. Like, we're not going to intervene with the goose because this is a totally natural event that's happening right now. The goose tormenting our penguins. Again, they're fine. They are used to this. This is what they... This is why they come in groups, because they can all stick together and run back together, and no individual penguin's going to get too stressed or harmed when they're in their group. If we do have a penguin who does need our help, we do have a wildlife hospital here at Phillip Island Nature Park, so we can catch an injured penguin. Many of our rangers, like myself, are trained in wildlife first aid, so we, if that penguin certainly looked really skinny, or if it looked like it had a new injury, we would go out and catch it and take it to our wildlife hospital for rehabilitation and release back into the wild, which is our goal for our wildlife here on Phillip Island. And I did mention we are Phillip Island Nature Park, so if you haven't watched the stream before or visited us before, Phillip Island Nature Parks is a non-for-profit conservation organisation funded by tourism. So if you do come to any of our sites, we do manage over 20% of Phillip Island. So we look after the Koala Reserve, Churchill Island Heritage Farm, the Nobby's Antarctic Journey, as well as many of the beautiful beaches, wetlands and woodlands all around Phillip Island. So you can come and visit us from this weekend, which is very exciting if you do live in Victoria. And any tickets, souvenirs, food, drinks that you buy, the profit actually goes back into our conservation, education and research work that we do here on Phillip Island, and in other areas as well for the protection of our wildlife. And if you can't come visit us just yet, we're very sorry to hear that, but you can help us out by donating to the Penguin Foundation. In particular, that does go to a lot of our research and conservation work, and helps to fund the Wildlife Hospital as well. So you can adopt a penguin, symbolically of course. Penguins do not make good pets. They bite, they're stinky, they have the fastest projectile poo of any animal in the world. So you don't want a penguin as a pet, but you can symbolically adopt one to help contribute to the work that we do here on Phillip Island to protect our wildlife, our penguins, our seals. We do have a colony of about 20,000 Australian fur seals off the end of the peninsula that we manage as well. Bandicoots, wallabies, even the geese. So you can help us out by donating, and we do hope to see everyone back here as soon as it is possible for you to come and visit. And I know our staff are certainly enjoying being able to get out and just watch the penguins. So we don't often get to just sit and enjoy watching their antics, and it is a pretty interesting night to be watching tonight as well. What is the goose doing? Scaring our penguins back again. Oh goodness me.
Maybe Gertrude the goose. That's Sue's vote. We might have to get back to you tomorrow night as to what we're going to call the goose, because I am pretty certain that we're going to see this goose again. And we can't really tell whether it's male or female. So if you're trying to, maybe we'll try and think of a gender neutral name. Or, you know, we can call it Gertrude if it's a boy. Jerry.
Yeah, there you go, Jerry. I think you're right, it probably does have to start with G, doesn't it? Like all penguin names should start with P. A goose name should probably start with a G. I think you're onto something, Sue. Let's see. Oh, and something you're all probably dying to know is how many penguins we had last night. So if you are new to Live Penguin TV, we do count the penguins each and every night, which, as I mentioned before, that's what Kerry is trying her very hardest to do tonight. So if you watched last night, I hope you've all got your votes in as to how many you think came in. Vote for your whatever number you think came in for your penguin lotto. Maybe you might have a bit of a prize at home for whoever gets the closest. And Sue, how many did we have last night?
So last night's total was 579.
579, yeah. There you go. Good work if you got close to that. I think the night before that we had over 900, so I think it's...
I did notice before the computer decided to go for a little rest that someone had guessed, nearly 900 or so. So whoever you are out there, you're on the right track.
Yes, it was certainly over 900, but 500 last night. Oh, and I can see some penguins swimming around in the water.
The computers decided to go into quarantine.
The computer's in lockdown. Oh no. Oh, sorry guys, we may not be able to get many questions through tonight. Technology, isn't it great? Well, while that's happening, do you have any questions, Sue? I can see you've written some down.
So you mentioned the Australian fur seals. So do they eat the little penguin?
Yeah, that's a good question. And I think that's one we get quite a lot when we mention that we have seals here, whether they do eat our penguins or not. And you'll be happy to hear that they don't eat our penguins. The Australian fur seals, they kind of forage at the bottom of the ocean floor. They don't bother with our penguins. So our penguins are pretty safe around here, especially because there are so many seals. Sharks won't bother the penguins either. They're probably more likely to go for a seal too. We do occasionally get long-nosed fur seals. Or maybe even the odd leopard seal coming into our waters around here, and they will certainly try and have a munch on a penguin if they happen to come across one. But our seals here are no real threat to the penguins. Even if they were to find a penguin out at sea, their camouflage does help protect them, so that the penguins don't often have to be worried about being predated upon at sea. Although there are some other colonies where long-nosed fur seals do certainly eat the penguins. And I'm getting distracted because I just saw a couple of penguins back at their little burrow here, and I thought I might see what they're doing. These guys are lucky they have some prime real estate right on the beachfront here, beachfront property. They don't have to go too far to get home. Some of our other penguins coming home tonight might have to travel up to 2 kilometres to get back to their burrows, which is quite a long way when you are only a foot tall and you have those teeny tiny little legs and a waddle. So our penguins do have that funny little waddle because their knees are fused, so they can't bend their knees. So they just kind of lean forward, rock side to side, get a bit of momentum to move forward. And that's why sometimes they can look a little bit clumsy. So some of them do have to walk a long way. These guys didn't have to. And these penguins, they might not be the same penguins that we saw here last year. They do, if they're doing well in a burrow, they might stay in that burrow for a few seasons or maybe even their whole life if they are really good, doing really well in that burrow. Oh, here's another group of penguins. And the males can be quite territorial. So once they do claim a burrow for a season, they will make sure no other male gets in to try and steal their burrow. And they will look after it. They will collect nesting material, bring it in, make it nice and cozy, and then try and impress a girlfriend, which it looks like that male at the burrow had already done. Looked like a little penguin pair standing out the front there. And they do have to renew those pair bonds or find a new partner every season. Now, little penguins don't mate for life like some other species of penguin. They are what we call socially monogamous in a season. They do stay with the same partner for the season, officially in the same burrow, but they do cheat on their partners. Scandal. The males and the females though, it's not one-sided. So if you do see them getting up to a bit of mischief on their way home, might be a bit of a secret rendezvous, cheating on their partner. But if you see a penguin pair out the front of their burrow, that's probably a couple. And then at the end of each breeding season, there's usually somewhere between an 18 to 50% divorce rate. So yes, they do get divorced. We tend to have higher divorce rates in poorer seasons, which usually means there's not as much food around, so they can't do as well raising chicks. So they kind of blame their partner, maybe say, you're not very good at finding food, you didn't provide for my babies this year, I'm going to find a new partner next year. And when we have lower divorce rates, it's usually in a good season where there's lots and lots of food and they're doing quite well raising chicks. And then they don't split everything 50-50. Usually the male's more likely to keep the burrow and the female might have to go find a new partner and a new burrow for the new season. But the females can be quite choosy. The males do actually come back a couple of weeks before the females at the start of the breeding season to get the burrows ready. Stand out the front, puff out their chest, show the girls how good they're looking, how nice a job they've done renovating their home, and do a bit of a song and a dance to try and impress a girl. So it's a little bit like, can you do the sound, Sue? Or should I just embarrass myself?
Go for it, Megan.
It's kind of like, and they'll kind of flap their flippers around and run around her. And sometimes you look at the female, she's just like, oh gosh, not this again. Or sometimes she's like, ooh, that's a pretty good little dancer. And if she's impressed, that's when you might see some special penguin cuddles, I like to call them.
And if it works, you might hear.
Yes, we went through this one last night. Yep, that's the sound of the male's flippers flapping against her as he keeps her balance. His balance.
Which leads me to the next question.
Yes, go for it.
Is that working at the moment, and is there any eggs or maybe even any chicks about?
Yes. So we aren't officially in the penguin breeding season just yet. It is still quite early. The majority of penguins aren't breeding. They're kind of gearing up for the breeding season. But we do have some eager penguins who do have eggs. I was actually out in the colony earlier in the week checking one of our study sites between the main viewing stands. And maybe let's just scroll over and I can show you where that is, and we'll see if there's any penguins coming in. Where am I? Over there. There we go. Ooh. I must say the lights look very bright. They're not that bright in person. That's just because there's a bit of sea spray on my camera. So up at the main stands here, we do have where we do some of our penguin research, and there's a little penguin going up between the two stands. We have made a special penguin pathway up through the cliffing. If you were worried about the penguins making their way up this pathway, some of our researchers came out today and built a little rock path for them to climb up. But the penguins that go up that path, most of them do have a microchip because they live up behind the stands here in our penguin research area. I'm just going to go back to our beach here. So there's some of the penguins I was checking on earlier in the week, and there was 2 nests with eggs on Monday, and one of the nests with eggs we were checking, and we knew it was almost due to hatch, and we just heard a little not very good at doing the chirping. I'll say it's not my strongest penguin noise. But we heard this little chirping coming from inside the eggs, and then on Wednesday they hatched, and they were fresh and wet, and they just come out of the egg. So we do have some chicks in the colony. I think there might be maybe 2 nests with chicks in our study site, so it's not really breeding season just yet, but there are a few cute little chicks around. Oh, and here's another group of penguins. And when the chicks do hatch, they are teeny tiny. They only weigh about 35 grams. So they're only about the size of your palm. And then it only takes them about 8 to 10 weeks to be fully grown and ready to head out to sea. So they do grow very quickly. And when they are newly hatched, like those little ones I was talking about, Mum and Dad do take it in turns, going out and coming back in almost every day or every couple of days, bringing food in for these little chicks, and one of them staying home to keep them nice and warm. So we do hope to see more penguins starting to breed soon. We did see a couple of shell gritters last night, so keep an eye on the highway camera, and if you see any penguins walking the wrong way, they might be a female who's getting ready to lay eggs and going out to the beach to eat some little pieces of shell to build up the calcium to build the shells of those eggs. So there might be a few more eggs in the colony soon.
That's exciting.
I know. Hopefully we will have another early breeding season.
Yeah.
I think they probably started breeding around this time last year, do you reckon, Sue? It was
I feel
quite
they
early.
bred all through winter, didn't they, last year almost?
They were very eager last year. We
very
did have
eager.
eggs, I think, in June last year. We had eggs. So
We'll
not
have
quite
little
as early.
chicks for in time for when everyone comes back to visit.
Yes, definitely. I would recommend coming and visiting in spring. Summer, that's when all the chicks will be around. That's our main penguin breeding season because that's when there's the most food. The penguins are quite clever. They use the sea surface temperature as an indicator of when there's going to be the most food out at sea, so that they can breed when there's going to be a lot of food around, and then they could hopefully be successful in raising chicks. And they were able to do that really early last year, which meant that a lot of our penguins actually had time to have a second clutch of chicks. I was just watching these penguins jumping over the stick here, which I'm finding quite amusing. It's like our
Penguin Olympics.
I was going to say penguin pole vault. Are you going to jump over? Oh, he climbed on it.
For gold, that one.
I just want. Oh, that was pretty. Okay, that was pretty impressive. I do think the penguins' best event at the Olympics would be the swimming. Maybe 100-meter sprint or the marathon. I don't think they'd be able to do a triathlon. They'd be really good at the swimming part, but I don't think they could reach the pedals on a bike. But they can jump about their own body height, so maybe they wouldn't be so bad at the pole vault. What else do you reckon they could do in the Olympics, Sue?
Who could shoot out the fastest poo?
Oh, I like that. Penguin specific event, I would hope. Oh goodness, maybe even wrestling. They are feisty little critters, these penguins. Like I said, they'll pick on a goose. We even saw a penguin on the live stream one night bite the tail of a wallaby. I've seen them pick on a bandicoot before. One night I was actually out last year doing some work with research, and we were doing some penguin blood sampling, so that similar to collecting poo, we can collect the blood and we can see what they're eating. The poo kind of tells us over a shorter time span, and the blood gives us a bit of a wider picture of what the penguins are eating. So we're out doing that one night. And I'd collected this penguin from his burrow. We'd taken a little bit of blood from his foot to go back to the lab to see what he was eating. And I went to put him back outside his burrow, and he was very grumpy. I don't know if anyone gives blood and they maybe feel a bit grumpy afterwards, but that's how this penguin felt. And I put him down, and he turned around and chased me. And I walked away with this penguin running after me, biting at the legs of my pants, trying to pick a fight with me. I'm like, I'm sorry I took your blood, but I'm not going to fight you. I'm probably 6 times taller than you. So they have a lot of attitude, these penguins. They wouldn't back down from a fight, that's for sure. And that's why they don't have to really worry about... Not many predators will get into their burrow to try and get their eggs. Oh, and there's some penguins coming around on the highway. Snakes don't really try and get in a penguin burrow. One day I saw a blue-tongued lizard, and I accidentally gave it a bit of a fright as I was walking past some penguin burrows, and the blue tongue got a fright, ran into a penguin burrow, and the penguins attacked the poor blue tongue, and it tried to retreat out the burrow, and then it saw me there, and it just awkwardly stayed in the entrance with these 2 penguins glaring at it, and me out the front not knowing what to do.
How terrifying.
I know, I felt bad. I left, and when I came back later, the blue tongue was gone, so it escaped relatively unscathed. But they may look cute and cuddly, but they are feisty, our little penguins, that is for sure. And I think we are almost out of time. We'll have a couple minutes left. I'm sorry the computer hasn't booted back up. I'm sorry we haven't been able to get through many of your questions tonight. Do you have any more questions, Sue?
Look, on their journey home now, do they have to worry about foxes or cats, perhaps?
Yeah. So they, once they're up on land, they should be safe from their natural predators, those birds of prey I was talking about earlier. But we do have some introduced threats here in Australia throughout our penguin colonies. Of course, they're not just here on Phillip Island. We do have the largest colony. But we do have penguins all along the southern coast of Australia and New Zealand, where they do face a range of threats, including foxes. Foxes are a big one because penguins don't have any natural defence against a land-based predator. So one fox here on Phillip Island was actually killing up to 40 penguins each night when they were introduced here by early European settlers for hunting. They have a huge impact on the natural ecosystem here in Australia, where we don't have any of those land-based predators. So our poor penguins were suffering. It was one thing that led to a huge decline in penguin numbers here on Phillip Island, and those numbers are still recovering. We used to have 10 colonies all around the island. Now we do just have the one, in part because of those loss of habitat and those introduced predators. So we have had part of a penguin protection plan here on Phillip Island was a fox eradication strategy. And we have been able to completely eradicate foxes from Phillip Island, which is an absolutely amazing achievement. Oh, there's some more penguins coming in. We are the biggest populated island to manage to get rid of foxes. So it is fantastic, not just for our little penguins, but all of our other wildlife here on Phillip Island that have been able to thrive. So you can go around the peninsula and at the moment see a heap of little baby geese, some little goslings, which are gorgeous and so much safer now that there aren't any foxes. We do have some feral cats, which are the next thing we are trying to tackle here on Phillip Island. Those cats that are born out in the wild, they don't have an owner, they aren't tame, they have to hunt for themselves, and they do unfortunately end up killing our native wildlife. So we are trying to get rid of those cats out of our wildlife areas to protect our wildlife like our little penguins. And if you do have a pet cat, pet cats are fantastic, and even more fantastic if they are kept indoors, especially at night time, to help protect our wildlife, because they are natural predators. If they are out and about, they can harm our wildlife. So one thing that we can all do to help protect our wildlife, it doesn't matter where you live, if there are no land-based predators, having a cat contained to your property makes a big difference for our wildlife to help protect them. So there you go, that's maybe one thing you can think about doing to help protect our wildlife. And we are almost out of time, so if you do also want to help us protect our little penguins, you can come visit us when possible. We're so excited to be reopening, and we hope to see limited numbers of people back through to see our beautiful little penguins, koalas, all of our wonderful wildlife here on Phillip Island. And if you're not able to visit yet, we hope to see you back as soon as possible. And I think I saw a bandicoot. I wasn't quick enough. Bandicoots are much too quick for me and this camera. Oh well, if you want, you can adopt a bandicoot, adopt a penguin, donate to the Penguin Foundation. All fantastic things that help us to protect our nature and wildlife for our beautiful animals here on Phillip Island. So I hope you've all had a fantastic night. Tune in again tomorrow night, the night after, and then for the next week we'll be bringing the penguins to you. Hopefully bringing a little bit of joy and happiness to people's living rooms at the moment. So we hope to see you back tomorrow night. Put in your guesses how many penguins you think came in tonight, and we will let you know how many came in tonight tomorrow night. So thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you again soon. Bye bye. Do you want to come in soon
Sure
and say
do.
goodbye?
See